Hello everyone and welcome to yesterday's Airlines. The release announcements keep on coming thick and fast. It seems like I'm constantly doing these videos nowadays, and that's both a good and a bad thing. Certainly there are a lot of releases coming out at the moment, though I have to admit that quite often they do look quite similar. Does this month's jcwings announcements indicate a change in that? Well, yes, but mainly no. And this month we've got 12 releases in total if we ignore the flaps up, flaps down aspects. 9 of which look like they're going to be coming out quite soon because JC have provided photos of the actual models, and 3 of which look like they'll be coming out sometime in the future, shall we say, but I wouldn't expect them anytime soon because they're either very new aircraft that JC's only just got pictures of, or JC themselves has provided nothing other than screenshots from airliners.net or somewhere. So those are the releases we're going to look through this month. Now, before I get started on that, I'm interested in what people think about the cost of the models nowadays. I've noticed, especially with jcwings, the cost of the models has just been skyrocketing. JC have historically been one of the cheaper brands in the 400 scale, but just recently the price of jcwings models has gone completely crazy. I know that other brands have also upped their prices, but JC's ones I think have upped by far and away the most. And yeah, it's just not great, is it, for anyone? It certainly doesn't help that the current British government is making such an incredible hash of the economy and tanking the pound versus the dollar, because obviously these models are purchased in dollars. I know at least of one retailer in the UK who's seriously questioning whether they're going to continue to stock jcwings based on the price rises, which are now putting the models up into quite exorbitant territory. So I know it's not just a JC problem, but I've certainly noticed it quite heavily with jcwings. The models in China themselves still seem to be selling at the same prices pretty much that they always have been, but as soon as you move them into the export market, suddenly the prices skyrocket. It's not great, but it hasn't stopped these manufacturers pushing out large numbers of releases. As I say, there's 12 this month from JC. There's probably roughly going to be the same sort of number of Phoenix. NG has been putting out a lot more models, and Aeroclassics and Gemini usually put 10 or 12 each themselves. So, you know, at the moment we're probably approaching, I don't know, add on Aviation 400 and Panda, you're probably approaching 70, 75 models a month being released, which is a large number. So you'd think there'd be a bit more variety than there is, but there isn't really. Okay, anyway. We're going to get on to looking at the releases in just a second. Obviously, as always, my spiel is subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to my other channels on Instagram and Facebook. Follow me at Yesterday Airlines. And check out, obviously, yesterdaysairlines.com, because there's new content appearing there almost every day. And don't forget, lastly, 400 Scale in Detail, which is a great Facebook group for checking out the models in a bit more detail. There's often exclusive content on there from me, and obviously from lots of other collectors talking about their models. But for now, let's get across and see what JC are offering the next month. So starting off, one of the things you're going to notice in this video is quite a lot of the time I say this model looks interesting, and then I have checked back through what's been released and see JC have almost released the same version previously. So jcwings are a lot of the time nowadays producing multiple versions of almost the same model, but then slipping them out at different times. I get the feeling the models are made at the same time, so you can quite often look at the original version and say, and then get a fair idea what the next one's going to look like, because it was made pretty much at the same time and the livery is 90% the same. So we're going to start in that vein by looking at the first model here from Airbus, and that is an Iberia A320 Neo, registered EC November Delta November. And lo and behold, when you check up what has been released, you see there haven't been many Iberia A320s. In fact, there's just been one Aeroclassics release, which is lovely, in the wonderful scheme from the 1980s. And then there's more recently been a jcwings Neo, which was released, I think, only a couple of years ago in 2019. So I would wager that this model was also made in 2019, has been sitting in the warehouse until it's been slipped out. Now, the difference between the two releases is that the original release, Easy November Foxtrot Zulu, was wearing the one-wheeled version of the Iberia scheme, and this one is wearing the standard colours. So I am aware that that will probably please quite a lot of people, because this is a sort of mainline airline. You'd have expected there to be more releases for something as obvious as an Iberia A320 Neo, and there hasn't been. So in that regard, this is a good release. However, when I looked back at pictures of the previous release, I can't say I think it looks particularly good. It's not just the usual moan that the JC Neo has these enormous engines, but I also don't think that they really have got the rest of the look particularly right either, especially around the cockpit, and it just doesn't look particularly good. I know they've made some changes to their A320s a little bit recent times, and they're looking a bit better, but if this one truly was made at the same time as the previous release, then it's going to look as bad as the previous release, especially since the scheme, which I don't like anyway, is almost the same. So I can't say that this one is exciting me. I get the feeling it's going to be pretty mediocre. It's a bad livery. It's an ordinary to bad mould. It's not been particularly well printed previously. This one's screaming gas guzzler for me. So despite the fact it's only the third Iberia A320, it's just not going to be a very good model, and I would hope that someone else produced an Iberia A320 which is nicer. Next we have a Lufthansa A320, and this one is registered DAIPD, and this one is in Star Alliance colours, and there have been quite a few Lufthansa A320s, not like Iberia, not that many made by jcwings. In fact, there has only been one other made by jcwings, and it was in Star Alliance colours. Who'd have thought it? So JC have again made this model effectively, though they made it 4 years ago in 2018, and I really wonder whether this model's been sitting in the warehouse for 4 years itself. I don't know. It's using the same box as the previous one did, so it really wouldn't surprise me if it was made 4 years ago, which seems incredible, but does seem to be the strategy they use. It really wouldn't surprise me. The livery's the same, except this time round the tail is the standard black Star Alliance tail, whereas previously the other release had the white Star Alliance tail. So otherwise it's going to look the same. Fortunately, this is an A320 CEO, and so therefore when you look at it, you're going, yeah, the engines are too big, they're CFMs, but they're not as shockingly bad, and the mold does look a bit better. And in fact, I looked at the previous photos of the previous version, and I don't dislike it as much as I dislike the Iberia Neo. It's still not great though. The mold still isn't great around the nose and the undercarriage, and if it was from 4 years ago, then there's a good chance it won't look spectacular, but I think it's going to be better than the Iberia. So even though it's basically a re-release with a different tail and the mold isn't spectacular, I'm going to put this one in workhorse. Our third Airbus of the month offers us an Easyjet A321 Neo. The big difference with this one is it's the Easyjet Europe branch. The Austrian branch is registered OEISB. There has not been any previous non-G-Reg A321 Neos for Easyjet, but there has been an Easyjet UK A321 Neo from jcwings. So once again, it's basically a re-release. The difference being that the previous release had the big Neo titles on it and had a G-Reg, whereas this one does not have that and obviously has an Austrian reg. Panda Models has made a standard A321 Neo without the giant Neo totals, so it looks almost the same except for the registration. Obviously, the Panda mold is superior. The previous jcwings version of this, once again, I can't say I'm loving it. The cockpit nose area looks a little bit funny. I think that it's accentuated by that gigantic orange sash that's above it. At least it's got the right wings on it. with the extra flat pack fairings. But again, it's got those giant Neo engines. It just doesn't really hang together particularly beautifully. It's not the end of the universe if you buy it. I'm not suggesting that you necessarily shouldn't. I probably wouldn't, even if I was an Easyjet collector. I'd probably hang out and wait, or I'd just hope for one of the other ones, the Pandal versions. But if you really are a big collector and want to get every single reg, then you haven't got a lot of choice really, because nobody else has made it, which is a shame. But for me, it's just going to be Gas Guzzler again. It's really not exciting, and it's not a particularly good mould, and it's effectively a release, and so on and so forth. You're seeing a pattern here. Things do improve, trust me, things do improve, but they don't improve much with the next model, which is yet another A321 Neo, and this time it's Air Busan from Korea, registered HL 8366. Air Busan is one of many of these new Korean airlines operating in this low-cost space, none of which are particularly exciting, either in terms of their names, because they're generally like, oh, Air somewhere in Korea, so it's boring brands, Air Busan, Air Seoul, Air Incheon, or the liveries aren't particularly exotic or interesting either, and this Air Busan livery, though not horrific, is not particularly exciting. So I'm not overly excited by the airline or the livery. And once again, we've been here before, haven't we? Because jcwings have made an Air Busan A321 Neo in exactly this scheme, but that one was registered HL9394. That was made in 2020, so you know exactly what this model's going to look like. And it's going to look, it's going to look okay. It's not going to look great, because again, the same reasons that I've given the others Neos not great ratings apply here too. Though looking at the old release, it probably looks a bit better than the Easyjet, but it's still the mold is meh. The engines are too large, the nose shape, blah blah blah. I could go on for a while on this. I'm not going to bore you anymore. Gas Guzzler. Let's get out of the Airbuses, because clearly JC's Airbuses are not their best molds. So next up we've got a Thai Airways ATR 42, and if that seems familiar, again it's because it is. Only a couple of months ago in July did JC announce Thai Airways ATR 42. That time it was in a slight special colours with the 200th logo on. This time it's just the bog standard colours. This isn't a surprise. I think I said at the time that they were going to release the second version. It was inevitable. It's going to be a perfectly nice model. I think I gave the previous version High Flyer, but since this is effectively a re-release with just the titles removed for that 200th logo, then I don't think I can give it High Flyer again. But I'm sure it'll be lovely. It's a nice little mould. Good to see some regionals. And so, it's a solid workhorse for me. But if you're a Thai collector, you might consider it to be better on a High Flyer. Okay, so obviously you don't get a lot of ATRs per month, so we're straight into the Boeings after that. And the first is an Air China 747-400, which is, pretty standard JC fare. Though I have to say that historically Gemini has released quite a lot of Air China as well. And I'm sure you guys know, JC and Gemini, hand in glove, they work together. All the models are made by jcwings. This one is registered B2472, and it is available in both flaps up and flaps down configuration, as I recall, and it is using the new jcwings 747-400 mold, which is vaguely exciting because it's a really nice mold. What is a little peculiar is that JC actually did release exactly this model last year, but using the old Gemini mold. So that's a bit weird. They probably made it years ago and just had it sitting around and thought, oh bugger, we better get this one out before we produce the new version. But it is a little bit weird that they've released the same model 2 years running, just on different molds. The new one presumably is going to look nicer than the old one. The old one looked, it was okay. It didn't look great. I initially wasn't a big fan of the way they printed the cheek line. It looked too high and not straight on the pictures I've seen. The new version will undoubtedly be nicer from a mold perspective, because obviously you've got this nice new seamless mold and it looks really good. I've only seen the pictures that they've released and it does look better. But the blue line, Air China's blue line, looks a little bit light in terms of its blueness, and maybe that's just the photos, we'll see. I have to say that I'm not going to replace my existing Air China 747-400, which is made on the Apollo Witty mold, because that mold is great, and arguably almost as good as this one, except it's got a seam. But nonetheless, it's good to see a few 747-400s getting out on that JC mold, albeit exactly what you'd expect JC to make. Lots of Asian carriers and very little else, which I am sure is not what the collectors, at least in the Western world, are screaming out for. Why have they not made British Airways? Why have they not made Air France? Why have they not made Lufthansa? Why have they not made Qantas? You know, why have they not made all these other airlines? You know the answer. Because of Gemini. Because Gemini own those airlines and therefore JC can't touch them, which is a real shame. Hopefully Gemini decide to use this mold, but they only release like 10 molds a month and they're not really focused on those markets, so yeah, who knows. Anyway, what do I think of this model? I think it'll be good. It's a nice mold. This one is going to get up there into high flyer, despite the fact that they've re-released it. It was a different mold. This one will be much nicer. And obviously you've got flaps down too. If that turns you on, then the flaps down version will be great too. Next we've got Cargolux. Cargolux has had quite a substantial number of 747-8 releases, and at least 2 previous ones have been on jcwings mold, including this very aeroplane, LX VCM, which wears these cutaway colours. However, obviously the big difference here is this release is going to be an interactive series model. And I've said nice things about the interactive series before. I don't feel the need to go back over it in detail. I like them. I know some people don't, but I do. Surely you're going to display them with the nose up, so you're not going to be concerned about that. Obviously, there are some concerns about the shape of the hump on the jcwings 747-8 freighter, and it isn't as good as the hump on the Phoenix, but the Phoenix don't have the interactive version. So, nice scheme. I like the mold. I like the interactive series. For me, this one's going up into high flyer. I might add that the original version they made, which was just standard, was made quite a long time ago in 2015. So it's, even though they made it before, it was a long time ago. Okay, on to the last Boeing for this month, and this is an LL 787-8 registered 4X ERB. There really is very little for me to say about this model because JC have made it before. They made 4X ERA in 2020, and this is exactly the same, just with different reg and aircraft name presumably. So it's, I can't even bother to show you pictures of the old release. It'll look exactly the same as the new one. It looks fine. It's a good mold, but it's done before. Literally the same livery. So yeah, it has to be a workhorse. It'll be nice if you missed the first one, get this one. But it's not interesting, is it? So there's just one more model to talk about, which is going to be released in the near term. All the ones I've talked about so far are models that will be released soon because pictures are available of them. And this last model is somewhat of a surprise. It is a military model, so therefore I probably wasn't paying close attention. Maybe they did talk about having done this mold earlier, but this is the first release using it certainly, and is a Kawasaki C1, which is the 4-engine jet freighter for all the Japanese. So this is obviously in the colours of the Japanese Air Self-Defense Force. The registration is 28-1002, and I'm in two minds about this. I think quite a few people may be, because I've seen some comments on social media about that. So it's really good that they're making these kind of unusual molds. But I'm not 100% convinced. Looking at the picture they've sent, which is just the one picture, I mean, you can't really tell everything about the mold, so I'm only going to go from that one picture. It generally looks pretty good when I look at the actual aircraft, except the one obvious area, which is the nose gear, is way too large. Way too large. I don't know why that is the case. It should be obvious that it's too large. It looks a bit toy-like, and when you look at pictures of the actual aircraft, you can see that the nose gear is nowhere near that big, or it doesn't seem that big. Yeah, so I'm not 100% certain about the size of the nose gear, but it is good to see this release because it's nice to see some diversity, and obviously everything I've talked about up to this point in the video has been, yeah, they've made it before, someone else has done this. So this is nice to see this. I'm not going to slay them for making new molds because I think that's a great idea, even if it is kind of a really niche product and not one that would fit my collection criteria. But it is interesting, and I'm sure there are lots of people who would be really interested in this. The one other thing I will say, however, about this first release is the pictures they've shown of the actual model don't appear to look anything like the actual aircraft in terms of the colour scheme, which is bemusing. All of the colours, they don't even match the box. You know, it's got a picture of the model next to the box, and they don't even look the same. All of the colours look wrong. Maybe it's just a really... No, it can't be. It can't be just the camera and the flash, because otherwise the box would look different too. I just don't understand it. But why are all the colours so much lighter than on the real thing? At least all the pictures I've seen, the colours are substantially darker. It's a much darker green, a much darker sand, and a much darker medium brown. So, yeah, interesting. I don't know why that is. I get the feeling this model is going to have issues. The nose gear obviously needs to be smaller. The colours look like they're all over the shop. But at the same time, it is an exciting, interesting release. So I'm going to put it up into high flyer despite some reservations. But I'm not going to put it into supersonic. Okay, so that rounds off the 9 releases which are going to get released this time, this year at least. The other 3 are new announcements for aircraft which have only either just appeared or JC have only just decided they might do. And these ones, I have to say, are a lot more interesting than the standard fare that they're putting out this month. So the first one I'm going to talk about is a new airline which has come into, well, it's not actually as new as I thought it was, actually. I remember I looked at pictures when I first saw this and it wasn't quite as new. I think they've also got some 737s and have been flying those around for a while in quite an attractive scheme. So it's an airline which isn't really old, it's only been around for a couple of years, but it's not completely new. And that is an airline called Central Airlines. Now, could you think of a more boring name for an airline? You probably couldn't. But nonetheless, Central Airlines is a newish Chinese cargo airline. But the good thing about Central Airlines is their scheme looks really cool. And it also looks like this scheme on this 777 is different, has a bit more green in it, and looking at it, I think it's going to be really cool. It's got that kind of boxy square thing that Spirit did once in the early 2000s. It's also got this really cool mask on the cockpit, which isn't the same as the Airbus mask. It's a bit more pointy. I really like it. I think it's going to look really nice. There's only a couple of pictures to judge the actual aircraft from so far, but nonetheless, I think this is going to look really, really good. It is also going to be interactive on that new interactive mold, which they have. At least they theoretically have. No one's seen any pictures of it yet, and who knows when it will be released. But I'm sure it'll be good because their existing 777 is great. So this one for me is really exciting. I obviously like Chinese airlines anyway. It's a really cool livery, and it's going to be an interactive 777. This one has to be supersonic, surely. It's going to be really cool. Next up is an aircraft that shouldn't exist. I really think that countries like Egypt buying 747s is embarrassing to put in their government in. I mean, the Egyptian government's already a disgrace. It's basically a dictatorship run by the army. It's a laugh. But getting over my issues with the politics here, jcwings have got a really nice 747-8 passenger mould, and this looks like a nice tidy Arab Republic of Egypt scheme that they've painted this new 747-8 in. I believe it's literally only just come out of the paintworks in Shannon just a week or two ago. The aircraft is registered SU EGY. It's gonna be a nice model, but I would never buy it because of the reasons I've talked about. But I understand if you're Egyptian, you might not have such issues with your government. If you collect government airliners, you probably can't be going, I'm not going to buy the governments where they're bad, because so many countries with big airliners as their government aircraft are horrible places. From a political perspective anyway. Obviously I love Egypt and Egyptian culture, but I don't like the government. So anyway, ignoring that, it's going to be a cool model. God knows when it will show up. But again, I think this is supersonic. It's new, it's interesting, it's different, and yeah, it's going to be nice. And continuing that theme, the next one is going to be equally nice. This one is a 747-400F. It's utilizing, again, the new interactive mold that they've got for that airliner. And as you probably know, Silkway West is an Azerbaijani cargo airliner. It's not the same as Silkway, I don't think. I think they're actually slightly different, which is a bit weird. But I presume they're all part of the same group. Oh yeah, it's a subsidiary of the same group, hence the name. But it is a different airline. It's just been going around for about 10 years or so by the look of things. And this one is wearing a really attractive scheme, a super attractive scheme. So again, you're sitting there as a collector and you're going, you know, I really would like to find an excuse to buy this. It's going to be on a really cool mold. I love their 747-400 interactive. It's got this beautiful silver scheme going on, which isn't just natural metal. And I think it's going to look really nice, especially interactive. It's actually yeah, I wonder if I can find a reason to buy it. Probably won't have to make that decision for a long time because, as I say, JC will probably take a year or two to make it anyway. But it's going to look really nice. And once again, I can't sit here and say anything but supersonic. So for me, this month has been saved by these long-range releases, which I could well be 50 before they turn up. Because, and that's a little way off, guys. I'm not that old. So, yeah. But this is saved this month for me. Otherwise, the releases, a lot of repetition, which is good if you're a fleet builder, but often repetition on relatively ordinary or mediocre molds. Nice to see the Air China, but it's not the most exciting 747-400 they could be making. Nice to see the Cargolux, but they've already made it non-interactive. Nice to see the LL 787, but at the same time, been made before. And nice to see that new Kawasaki, but a few reservations about this particular release and the size of the nose gear. So no, this has been not as bad a month as it started out. When I started the video, there is some interest there to be had. And yeah, JC do slip out the odd unusual release here and there, though nothing really classic, as you can see in this set. Okay, anyway, will we be able to afford any of these models when they're actually released? Who knows? It depends what happens with the pound, I guess, being stuck here in the UK. But that's it for now from me. Thank you very much for watching. As always, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.